the voice of the Crimson Tide, Eli Gold. I hope you're doing well, sir. Welcome into the game in Tuscaloosa.
My pleasure. Good to be with you, Ryan. How you doing?
Absolutely, and we're doing great. And obviously, we're not abiding by the Nick Saban 24-hour rule. I know he's back to work, but we're still celebrating the 16th national title.
Oh, I'm sitting here in a national championship golf shirt and having a good time. And, of course, you got the celebration and the parade coming up Saturday. So, it's a lot to be proud of. It's I was talking with somebody. I was off last weekend in Charlotte, North Carolina, doing some NASCAR planning for this coming season for our broadcasts, and we were talking about the ball game. And somebody had a great line, said, if you saw on a piece of paper that any team anywhere had won 4 championships in 7 years, you were sure it was a typographical error. It's just been an amazing run here, and great coaches, great players, magnificent support from everybody at the university. So, yeah, Coach Saban is working again, but you're right, we're all still celebrating.
As you look at, and I know that you know Nick Saban and you have that unique relationship, what stands out to you? You've worked with a lot of coaches. Is there something about Nick Saban that's different that has allowed him this successful run?
Well, that's a great question. I think it's the attention to detail is probably the answer. In some schools, not so much at Alabama, but at some schools, there are coaches who recruit because they have to. Nick Saban recruits because he loves to, and because it bears fruit down the road. You have to love what you're doing, and he obviously does. He eats, breathes, drinks, sleeps Alabama football and college football. But the attention to detail, nothing is left to chance. And not that the other coaches at Alabama have been slackers by any stretch, and they've all been hugely successful for the most part, and obviously Gene Stallings during my era with the school won a national title. Everybody's approach is different, but the attention to detail is what I think separates Nick Saban from everybody else.
When you look, is there special demands from Nick Saban? I mean, you in one sense represent the University of Alabama. Does he put a lot of demands? I mean, he just seems like, he demands obviously the excellence, and that's what you give. But, whether you're talking about the guy that is in charge of this area, does Nick Saban, does he require a lot more from you? Does he...
Well, I can only speak for myself, and no, he really does not. I will tell you this, that he is the only coach that, for instance, when you tape the pregame show that the fans hear, 40 minutes or so before kickoff, every other coach I have worked with, from Coach Stallings, actually from Coach Curry, right on to Coach Shula, every one of those coaches would record that show with me on Thursday or Friday at their hotel or Friday in their office or whatever it was. Nick Saban says, I do it 2 hours before the game, 2 hours before kickoff. And he and I, as you saw, as we talked down in the bowels of a stadium a few weeks ago, we were waiting for the team to arrive, and I go inside and interview the coach right then and there. So that's a little bit different. That's not a demand. It's just how it fits into his schedule. I don't really want to ask Coach Saban a stupid question. But then again, I really wouldn't have wanted to ask any of the coaches a stupid question. No, he's not demanding. His schedule is rigid. So when you need to do something, you do it at his beck and call. But that's, again, not totally unique to other coaches. So, I don't work with him that much when you stop to think about it. We get along great. We do our shows on Thursday night, the Nick Saban show. I talk to him before the games, talk to him after the games. But, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, or shall I say 7A to 10P, we don't really work side by side. So the demands on me are not that much different other than, doing a show 2 hours before kickoff, as opposed to Thursday or Friday, stuff like that, which really in the grand scheme of things is not that big.
2 hours prior to the kickoff, and I think this is a little bit of inside information. We're talking with the voice of the Crimson Tide, Eli Gold, which we're part of here on Tide 99.1 at our sister station 95.3 The Bear. As we're looking right now, 2 hours prior to the game, what's the focus like from Nick Saban? I mean,
well, he's wound up very, very tight. But, I think a lot of it has to do with how the week of practice was. I think privately a lot has to do with who the opponent is. I believe the coach has wound up a whole lot more before a Mississippi State game, an Ole Miss game, an LSU game than he is before Chattanooga or Western Carolina. Taking nothing from those teams because we don't think those games are big, just go out and lose it, find out how big it was. But some games, sometimes in those meetings 2 hours before kickoff, I can actually get a smile out of him or a little chuckle as we talk about whatever the subject might be, and sometimes not. But he is very wound up, regardless of who we're playing, but probably even more so in certain settings. But it's very, it's nice to walk through the locker room, see the players 2 hours before the game, exchange a greeting, talk to some of the assistant coaches. It's all very brief because I've got to get back upstairs and get on the air. But, there are on occasion a few smiles, which you don't always see in every single pregame gathering.
When you look at this team and try to reflect on 2015's successful run, how will you remember this team?
Well, I will probably remember it based on the development of certain players and the way, I think most importantly, the way they responded after the Week 3 loss. And I think ultimately that probably helped in a rather perverse way. From the start of Week 4 right through the end of game number 15, as you well know, every single game was an elimination game. Everybody knew you lose one more, you're not going to the SEC championship game. You lose one more, you're probably not going to the playoffs. So every game was an elimination game. And the way these fellas found a way to win, at home, on the road, indoors, outdoors, good weather, monsoons in Athens, it mattered not. This team, its intestinal fortitude was unbelievable. So it was great to see the development of Jake Coker and to watch Calvin Ridley, step up and answer the bell when we had injuries at the wide receiver spot and so on. And obviously the Derrick Henry story was so wonderful to see. But I think in general, the intestinal fortitude and the mental toughness of this team to play an elimination game from Week 4 through Week 15 and get through that gauntlet, that's something I'm always going to remember.
And one of the things, and I'm sure this probably sticks out to you as well, it seemed like Nick Saban enjoyed this team. And I know he said that, and I'm not taking a shot at other teams because it's just different challenges, but it just seemed like from my perspective, he enjoyed being around this team.
Well, this team enjoyed being around themselves. This team enjoyed the relationship that they had with one another. Coach Saban, really loves all the teams that he's had, but this team was just one that went through so much together, had remarkable development at different positions and so on. I think it was just, it was just outstanding. And yes, he genuinely loved this bunch of guys. He wanted to see them win. There were so many special people on this organization, in this organization. And, he just, as everybody bought into the process, he bought into the players. He genuinely did love these guys.
I look back, and I was reading a couple of minutes ago as I was preparing for the interview. You're an author of a couple of different books, and we've talked about it before. We've had you on From Peanuts to the Press Box. You tell your life story. and now also looking back in 2005, the Crimson Nation, the shaping of the South's most dominant football team. That might be a chance to revise that and add a couple of chapters.
As a matter, it's funny you say that. I just did re-up a contract with Triumph Books out of Chicago, and I am meeting with their people in Tuscaloosa tomorrow. They are coming down, and we're meeting over lunch tomorrow to figure out exactly how we're going to do it right. That book ended with the start of the Mike Shula era. Nothing is in there of the Nick Saban years, and we are indeed going to put out a new and improved version. The first part will remain as is, and I'm going to update the back end of the book. So it's funny you mentioned that, and folks, that was not a setup either. He had no idea. Ryan had no idea. But yeah, we're going to do that, and it'll come out in time for Christmas next year, for the shopping season. So around August or September, the new and improved Crimson Nation book will hit the stores and be available for purchase.
Yeah, and I like I said, I had no clue, and you said that as well. But you just think about it, and you said it as we started up this interview. There's many broadcasters who dream to call a championship game, whether it would be an SEC championship, but to be able to look back and to see what you've been a part of,
it's remarkable.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it's
I've been blessed to not only do 5 national championship games and countless SEC championship games, but on the national side, I've never broadcast a losing national championship game. All 5 I've been part of from 92 and then through the Coach Saban era have been victories for Alabama. So as bizarre and unlucky as it is, the only other guy you can think of, you got the late Kaywood Ledford, who was the voice of Kentucky basketball through so many of their championships. And, of course, the legendary Dick Enberg, who was the voice of UCLA basketball during the John Wooden days. There are very few of us, Mel Allen, the longtime voice of the New York Yankees, there are few of us who have been able to broadcast so many championships and, in my case, never be on the losing side. And for those gentlemen, more often than not, being on the winning side. It has just been a blessing. It really has.
I want to walk it back to one play in the national championship game, and I don't know if you were prepared for it, if you had seen it in practice, but the onside kick that Nick Saban pulled out of the back of his pocket that nobody saw coming. How did you change directions and immediately try to describe that?
Well, did I know it was coming? No. Had I seen it in practice? Yes. But I know enough about football to get by. I am not shrewd enough in that instance to see the Clemson alignment and say to myself, this is where this play would go perfectly, and that's what they're going to call. I had no idea. You just go with your God-given ability, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a mainline journalist, never have been, never claimed to be. I am a professional describer. I'm a professional play-by-play guy. I don't offer commentary. I don't offer editorialization on the air, unless I'm doing a pro game, but I'm talking about collegiately. I don't offer commentary. I describe what I see, and I've been blessed to be able to shift gears when you're getting ready for a straightaway kick, and all of a sudden here comes that great chip shot and the grab by Marlon Humphrey. You describe what you see, and having listened to the tape, thankfully I was able to call it, and I had a clear shot at the number on the jersey, so I knew immediately who had recovered who had caught the kick. So I guess I'm just blessed that I've been able to do that. But that's part of being a professional describer for the last 30 some odd years. Hopefully you learn over the years through repetition, and when it's called upon, you're able to open your mouth and the correct thing comes out.